Friends, we are facing a relentless parade of winter systems, hammering the nation right now. And let me tell you, this isn't your garden variety storm. We are looking at a volatile pattern that has already thrown a wrench in holiday plans for millions of families. Between Christmas and New Year's, we've seen over 9,000 flights grounded or delayed. Major interstates up in the Northeast have been forced to close. Governors are declaring states of emergency to get resources moving, and just as we catch our breath, another powerhouse system is gearing up to take aim at a whole new section of the heartland. By the time we wrap up here, you won't just know what's falling from the sky, you'll understand the science behind why the atmosphere is acting this way. We'll pinpoint exactly where the danger zones are and, more importantly, discuss how to keep your loved ones safe. Stick with me, and at the 12-minute mark, I'll break down the timeline day by day. Then, around minute 18, we're going to have a serious conversation about survival strategies. This isn't just advice. It is critical knowledge that could save a life if you find yourself stranded in these elements. Let's pop the hood and look at the mechanics of what we are dealing with. The atmospheric pattern locked over North America this week is practically inviting these storms to line up one after another. We have a low-pressure center that spun up over the Central Plains and is racing east toward the Great Lakes. In the weather community, we call this rapid intensification. The barometric pressure is plummeting, and when the floor drops out like that, the wind responds violently. We are already clocking gusts between 40 and 50 miles per hour across Nebraska, parts of Kansas, and South Dakota. And frankly, those winds are just getting started. When a storm system bombs out this fast, the atmosphere reacts in a specific way. First, the pressure gradient tightens up. Picture a vacuum cleaner hose. The narrower the opening, the faster the air rushes in to fill the void. That is exactly what is generating these fierce winds. Second, the storm is siphoning moisture from every direction. And third, because this low is hugging the Canadian border, it's acting like a gatekeeper holding the bitter Arctic air to the north while drawing up warm, moisture-rich air from the south. That collision creates a fierce atmospheric battleground, stretching from the Great Lakes right into the northeast. That serves as the focal point for the most hazardous weather. Here is what makes this setup particularly worrisome. It is not just a snow event. We are dealing with a witch's brew of precipitation, rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow, all swirling within the same system. The transition zones, those narrow bands where the mercury hovers right at the freezing mark of 32 degrees, are absolutely the most treacherous spots to be. We see black ice forming on roads that crews had already treated. Power lines are sagging under heavy glazes of ice, and tree limbs are snapping like twigs. This is a high-impact event that threatens infrastructure and safety. Let me throw some numbers at you to paint the picture. By early Saturday evening, flight tracking services reported over 9,000 cancellations or delays. The big hubs in the New York metro area, John F., Kennedy, LaGuardia, and Newark Liberty took it on the chin and were among the hardest hit. The airlines are scrambling to handle the backlog caused by icy runways and crews being out of position. American, United, and JetBlue generally waived their standard change fees, doing the right thing to let travelers rebook without a penalty. But the skies are only half the trouble. Down here on the ground, conditions are just as severe. Pennsylvania and New Jersey had to ban commercial trucks from major interstates to prevent jackknifes. We have ice storm warnings and advisories plastered across much of Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. Leadership in New York and New Jersey is pleading with folks to stay home. Governor Kathy Hochul made it clear the safety of families is the top priority, and she is urging extreme caution until this system clears out. Looking back at Friday night, the snowfall totals were impressive. Bob Oravec, a meteorologist over at the National Weather Service, confirmed we saw anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of accumulation, stretching all the way from Syracuse down to Long Island and into Connecticut. Central Park officially logged 4.3 inches. Now, that might not sound like a massive blizzard to some, but for the city, that is the heaviest snow event since 2022. It has been about 4 years since we've seen a single month deliver that kind of winter wallop there. Now, let's shift focus to the current threat moving east. We have blizzard warnings lighting up the map across the plains and the Midwest, specifically around Grand Forks, North Dakota. Generally, we are forecasting a widespread blanket of 5 to 8 inches for most folks. But here is where nature complicates things. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan is getting hammered by lake-effect snow on the western shores. We are talking feet, not inches, and the Northeast is next in line for that enhancement. For those asking what lake-effect snow actually is, when bone-chilling air sweeps over the relatively warmer waters of the Great Lakes, it acts like a sponge. It sucks up heat and moisture, rises violently, and dumps intense bands of snow on the downwind shores. The lakes are still holding warmth, so that engine is firing on all cylinders. This means western Michigan, western New York, and northwestern Pennsylvania are going to see accumulation totals that significantly dwarf the surrounding regions because of that lake enhancement. We cannot ignore the wind component here. We are looking at gusts hitting 60 to 70 miles per hour near Albert Lea, Minnesota, Madison, and Green Bay, Wisconsin. You are looking at 50 to 60. Chicago? Same story. When you mix falling snow with that kind of velocity, visibility vanishes. The snow stops falling down and starts flying sideways. Roads turn into parking lots in minutes. We are talking near hurricane force energy in some spots. Travel becomes virtually impossible. Let me walk you through the timeline, region by region, so you can plan your week and keep your family out of harm's way. In the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Iowa conditions are deteriorating as we speak. Minneapolis and St. Paul are sitting right on the razor's edge of the warning zones. West of the Twin Cities, full blizzard warnings. East, winter storm warnings. What that means for you in Minneapolis is that even if you miss the technical blizzard label, don't be lulled into a false sense of security. You will see whiteouts. The roads will be incredibly dangerous. For my friends in Chicago or anyone connecting through there, listen up. The situation is going downhill fast. The pressure gradients are squeezing tight. Winds that were manageable this morning are now ramping up past 40 miles per hour. By tonight, the Windy City lives up to its name, with gusts hitting 50 to 60 miles per hour alongside heavy snow. If you have flights out of O'Hare or Midway, expect major headaches and cancellations. Cleveland, you are on deck. As this system tracks over the lakes, you'll start with rain, but as the backside of the storm sweeps through, it switches to snow, driven by those gale-force winds. The lake effect machine off Erie will keep pumping right through Monday. Now, for the I-95 corridor, New York City, Philly, Boston, this system is bringing you mostly rain, but do not let that fool you into thinking it's safe. The storm track is keeping the Arctic blast just to your north, keeping temperatures marginally warm enough for rain. However, just a few miles north and west of the city limits, it is a completely different and much more dangerous story. This is where tonight gets tricky. A winter weather advisory kicks in at 4 p.m. for the interior of Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, and northwest New Jersey. We are looking at a 10-hour window of hazardous weather, illustrated by the purple shading on your maps. We are talking northern Fairfield County, up through Peekskill and Rockland, all the way into Dutchess County. In Jersey, this hits Passaic and western Bergen County hard. The culprit here is freezing rain. Some spots might just get a glaze, but the northern Hudson Valley could see up to 0.2 of an inch of ice accumulation. That is more than enough to turn a driveway into a skating rink. If you live in those northern or western suburbs, take my advice, stay home tonight. It is simply not worth the risk to be out on those roads. Here is the play-by-play. At 4 p.m., the storm is still out west, so your afternoon drive might look fine. But don't be deceived. By late afternoon, that pink danger zone on the map indicating freezing rain starts developing over Pennsylvania. By 7 p.m., that icy mix spreads into the suburbs north and west of the city. While New York City and Long Island deal with a cold rain just miles away, the roads will be freezing over. Folks, get your umbrellas ready because we have a wet night ahead for the Hudson Valley, stretching all the way up into Connecticut. However, the real soaker for the I-95 corridor holds off until tomorrow morning, when the actual front sweeps through. If you are up early Monday, say around 7 a.m., it might look dry in the tri-state area. But don't let that fool you. By 10 or 11 in the morning, the rain is going to engulf the whole region. Here is the strange part. The thermometer is actually going to climb while you sleep tonight. Once we get past that initial freezing rain scare this evening, it turns into a plain old rainstorm. For travelers out of JFK, LaGuardia, or Newark, it is strictly liquid. You might still face delays due to visibility, but praise God, at least we aren't dealing with ice on the runways at those major hubs. Right now, it is bone-chillingly cold out there, with readings in the teens and 20s for most of us, and even single digits out on the tip of Long Island. We are going to warm up into the mid to upper 30s today, which will feel like a heat wave compared to the last few days. Tomorrow, we spike up to 48 degrees. But enjoy it, because it is just a one-day reprieve from winter. Once that front clears, reality sets back in. We are plunging back below average temperatures for the remainder of the week and ringing in the new year on a frigid note. I want to shift gears and talk about our neighbors on the West Coast. While we are digging out here, California is getting hammered by a relentless weather pattern. A parade of powerful winter systems is slamming Southern California with torrential rain, gale-force winds, and heavy snow in the mountains. The National Weather Service is tracking multiple atmospheric rivers stacking up over the Pacific. It is looking like Southern California might experience its wettest Christmas season in recent memory. Now, you might hear the term atmospheric river and wonder what that actually means. Picture a massive conveyor belt of moisture in the sky, a literal river of water vapor flowing above our heads. When these systems hit land, particularly the mountain ranges out west, they wring out like a sponge. We are talking rainfall rates measured in inches per hour, which is a recipe for disaster. The systems that rolled through over Christmas Eve and Christmas Day were absolutely devastating. The deluge caused flash flooding and dangerous mudslides across huge swaths of the Southland. To give you an idea of the scale, some areas in Los Angeles County were inundated with 11 inches of rain. From the city limits of LA up to the mountain communities, folks were blindsided by rushing water that swallowed homes, washed out highways, and forced thousands to flee. It breaks my heart to report that local authorities have confirmed we lost at least 3 souls in these floods. Governor Gavin Newsom had to declare a state of emergency on Wednesday for Los Angeles and surrounding counties. About 380 families living near burn scars, those are areas where wildfires stripped the land earlier this year, were told to get out immediately. Without vegetation to hold the soil, the ground just cannot handle that much water. Instead of soaking in, the rainwater rushes downhill, picking up mud, boulders, and debris. It turns into a devastating slurry that destroys everything in its path. Our first responders have been working overtime, pulling people out of trapped cars as the waters rose. Los Angeles firefighters even had to rescue someone from a drainage tunnel. As of Thursday evening, roughly 100,000 people across the state were sitting in the dark without electricity. Unfortunately, the forecast shows these storms lingering through Friday, and meteorologists are warning that there are more of these atmospheric rivers queuing up behind this one. The Weather Prediction Center is sounding the alarm on more flash flooding. The ground is already saturated, and areas that were scorched by wildfires back in January remain under strict evacuation warnings. Adding more rain to that mix drastically shoots up the risk of deadly debris flows. Authorities aren't taking any chances. They have been going door to door in the high-risk zones, pleading with residents to leave before the landslides start. I need to be straight with you folks. This is not your garden variety winter weather. We are seeing an atmospheric setup that is driving extreme conditions on both sides of our country. Out east, we have the bitter cold and ice. Out west, they have historical flooding. Both situations demand the same thing from us: preparation and respect for the elements. I am reminded of a verse from Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 3. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it. That is wisdom for the ages. God gave us the science of meteorology and the ability to predict these storms so we can protect our families. Heeding a warning isn't about fear. It is about stewardship and wisdom. Let's talk about some practical ways to keep your family safe, starting with the roads. Winter driving is where we see the most tragedy. When you add snow and ice to the pavement, the laws of physics change. Your vehicle needs much more room to stop, sometimes 3 to 9 times the distance you need on dry asphalt. It doesn't matter how good of a driver you are. You cannot outsmart physics. Please, slow down. I cannot stress this enough. Speed limits are set for perfect days, not for icy ones. Knock at least 15 to 20 miles per hour off your speed, and even more if you can't see well, and give the guy in front of you some room. You know the 3-second rule? In this weather, make it 6 or 8 seconds. You need that buffer zone to react if things go sideways. The key is to be gentle. No stomping on the brakes, no jerking the steering wheel, and no flooring the gas pedal. Smooth inputs keep you on the road. If you feel the car start to slide, don't panic. Ease off the gas, don't touch the brakes, and steer where you want the car to go. If you have anti-lock brakes, press down hard. If you are in an older truck, pump them gently. Wisdom also means knowing when to stay home. If you can't see the hood of your car, or if you are sliding all over the place, find a safe spot and park it. Being late to an appointment is a lot better than ending up in a ditch or worse. Make sure your car is packed for an emergency. Toss in a sleeping bag, a good flashlight with fresh batteries, jumper cables, and maybe some kitty litter for traction. Keep some water and snacks in there, and a way to charge your phone. If you get stuck in a drift, that kit becomes your lifeline. Now, regarding your home. If we get ice, we usually get power outages. It only takes 0.2 of an inch of ice to snap a power line or bring a branch down on a transformer. Have your flashlights ready and your phone charged up now. It is also smart to fill the bathtub with water, just in case the pumps go off. If the heat goes out, please be careful with alternative heating. Never, ever use your gas stove or oven to heat the house. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer, and we see tragedies every year because of this. Watch those pipes, too. Leave a faucet dripping just a little bit to keep the water moving, and open up the cabinet doors under the sink so the warm air can get to the plumbing. If you leave town, keep the thermostat at 55 degrees or higher. A burst pipe can cause thousands of dollars in ruin. Keep a supply stash ready. You want 1 gallon of water per person, per day, for 3 days. Same goes for food. Canned goods are great, just don't forget the manual can opener. Have a battery-powered radio so you can hear reports if the internet goes down, and don't forget meds, baby formula, or food for the dog. Finally, look out for one another. Check on your neighbors, especially the seniors living alone down the street. Storms have a way of reminding us that we are a community. We shovel each other out. We share firewood. It is a beautiful thing to see people caring for one another. It really reflects the heart of Christ. It could be as simple as clearing a walkway or offering a warm room to someone who lost power. Those small acts of kindness are what getting through winter is all about. I also want to touch on the health risks, because people often underestimate the cold. Frostbite is nasty and can set in within 30 minutes if the wind chill is low enough. Your nose, ears, and fingers are the first to go. If your skin goes numb or turns a waxy white or yellow, you are in trouble. Get inside immediately if you see that. Don't rub it, that causes more damage. Warm it up slowly with body heat or lukewarm water. Hypothermia is the other big danger, and it is a medical emergency. That happens when your body temp drops too low. If someone is shivering uncontrollably, confused, stumbling, or slurring their words, call 911. If they stop shivering and get drowsy, that is a critical sign that their body is shutting down. The secret is layering. Start with a moisture-wicking base, add an insulating layer like wool or fleece, and top it with a windbreaker. And wear a hat. Mom was right, you lose a ton of heat out of your head. Mittens are actually better than gloves because your fingers share the warmth. Try to stay inside if you can. When the wind chill dips below zero, it doesn't take long for things to go south. If you have to work outside, take plenty of breaks to warm up and keep an eye on your buddies for signs of trouble. Looking ahead, here is the roadmap for the week. Tomorrow, Monday, we hit 48 degrees in the metro area with plenty of rain. But don't get used to it. That is the only mild day we get. By Tuesday, we are back to reality, dropping to 32 degrees, and with the wind whipping, it is going to feel a lot colder than that. As we approach the midweek holiday, expect the mercury to top out right around 35 degrees on Wednesday for New Year's Eve, followed by a high of 33 degrees to ring in New Year's Day on Thursday. If you are heading down to Times Square to watch the ball drop, prepare for temperatures hovering near the 31-degree mark at the stroke of midnight. While it is not the bitterest cold we have endured, you will definitely want to bundle up in layers to trap that body heat. Looking at the long-range synoptic chart, the pattern suggests the eastern United States will remain locked in a deep freeze beyond this week. The jet stream, that fast-moving river of air above us, has buckled, essentially opening the door for Arctic air to spill down from Canada, and these blocking patterns are notoriously stubborn once settled. We should be prepared to see these unseasonably cold readings stick around through a significant portion of January. Out on the west coast, that atmospheric river, a relentless plume of moisture, shows no sign of letting up. We are tracking a series of disturbances that could dump more rain on soil that is already saturated, posing a severe risk for debris flows in those fragile burn scar regions. I am reminded of the scripture in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. My goal isn't to cause alarm with this forecast, but to offer you the wisdom to prepare, because a sound mind leads to peace, not panic. You have been given the discernment to take proactive steps that will ensure the safety and well-being of your household. Severe weather is a test, not just of our infrastructure, but of our community's spirit. When the storms hit, do we retreat in fear, or do we check on our neighbors? Let's face this with prudence, looking out for the vulnerable among us. Let's recap the critical data points to ensure everyone is on the same page. We are monitoring a complex winter system slamming the Midwest, bringing blizzard conditions and wind gusts screaming between 50 and 70 miles per hour. Travel around Chicago, Cleveland, and the Great Lakes is going to be treacherous. Along the I-95 corridor, we are looking mostly at rain, but the concern shifts to ice just north and west of the cities. The northern Hudson Valley could see a glaze of up to 0.2 of an inch of ice tonight, which is more than enough to snap tree limbs and knock out power. California is still under the gun with this atmospheric river event, facing life-threatening flash floods and mudslides. We have already lost 3 souls to this system, and mandatory evacuation orders are currently affecting hundreds of families, particularly near the burn scars. Here is your checklist for stewardship and safety. If you are under a winter advisory, please stay off the roads tonight and Monday morning. If driving is essential, increase your following distance, keep an emergency kit in the trunk, and please check on the elderly in your neighborhood to ensure they have heat. For my friends in California living near those burn zones, if the authorities tell you to go, please evacuate immediately. Do not hesitate. We know that nature is powerful and winter can be harsh, but we are not helpless. We have the science to predict, the wisdom to prepare, and the faith to endure. Take practical steps, help your neighbor, and trust that this system will pass and the sun will shine again. May God bless you and keep your family safe as we ride out this weather together.